Hey guys, Non-Zero here, bringing you my Week 6 team builder and match analysis for the DGBA. We're up this week against the London Swalots, and you can see my opponent's team at the left side of the screen. They are rocking a Heliolisk, Taurus, Sneasel, Superior, Donphan, Volcarona, Mega Slowbro, Como with the Z Crystal, Mienshao, Staraptor, and Meloetta. So my opponent's rocking some setup sweepers potentially in Superior, Volcarona, and Como. They're also rocking some bulky mons like Mega Slowbro, Donphan, and from the special side Meloetta. And finally, they're packing some hard-hitting potential Scarfers in Heliolisk, Mienshao, and Staraptor. But a common theme to this team is there are no poison types, there are no steel types, there are no mons with guts or magic guard. In short, nothing really wants to take it toxic. And so, what I've decided to build my team around for this week is having a lot of mons which just are packing toxic. I want to get as many things on my opponent's team poisoned as I can, just have all of his bulky mons be worn down. I mean, mons like Mega Slowbro are pretty tough to deal with in general if you don't have a move like Toxic. I mean, yes, I have Tapu Koko, which is obviously going to do a lot to Mega Slowbro, but if it manages to get a few Calm Minds off, or my opponent manages to knock out my Tapu Koko, then I like to have a lot of different options to take out bulky mons like the Mega Slowbro. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into the 6 mons I'm going to bring this week. First up, we have Slime Pile, the Goodra, bringing a bit of a different set this week. So I'm bringing a little bit of an offensive set with Hidden Power Rock, Focus Blast, Thunderbolt, and Toxic. Hidden Power Rock to hit the Volcarona so that we can beat that thing 1v1. This is going to be my main switch into Volcarona, so I wanted a way to do good damage to it. I went with a bit of a more offensive spread just so that I could 2-hit KO the Mega Slowbro before it gets any Calm Minds off. So that's the idea behind this sort of spread. It still can take special attacks very, very, very well, and it has a decent longevity, especially with those leftovers. And of course it does pack that Toxic, so if I suspect that he's going to switch into something like an Assault Vest Donphan or a Meloetta, either of which can eat my attacks relatively well, I can just hit either of those things up with the Toxic. And so the second mon I'm going to be bringing this week is going to be a Choice Scarf Lieutenant Surge, the Tapu Koko, rocking a Timid Nature, max speed, with Dazzling Gleam, U-Turn, Thunderbolt, and Hidden Power Rock. Now, what max speed Choice Scarf allows me to do is outspeed a potential Choice Scarf Staraptor or Choice Scarf Mienshao and hit those things with a Thunderbolt or a Dazzling Gleam respectively. Also, I can outspeed a Volcarona even after a Quiver Dance and hit it hard in Power Rock. Now, the thing about Volcarona is even if it's Quiver Dance twice, if it's running some bulk, a max speed Choice Scarf Tapu Koko will still outspeed bulky Volcarona. So my opponent sort of has to choose between losing out on some bulk on their Volcarona or not being able to outspeed this thing until it gets up 3 Quiver Dances. So I think my team should generally be pretty fine between these two handling Volcarona. And so yeah, let's go on to the next member of my team, and that's going to be Sange de Feu, the Fist Plate Iron Fist Infernape. Iron Fist not actually helping me here, but of course Blaze wouldn't help me here either, so that was sort of just arbitrary. Rocking a max speed, just max attack, Jolly Nature with U-Turn, Stone Edge, Close Combat, and Toxic. Now, Toxic on Infernape, I think that is something that could potentially be really, really big here. So I think the main switch-ins my opponent might have to Infernape are things like the Slowbro Mega and also the Donphan. And both of those do not appreciate being toxic. So I can definitely see my Infernape putting in some work. After those mons are worn down, the combination of Stone Edge and Close Combat just does wonders to the rest of his team. So I'm really looking for Infernape to put in some work in this matchup. I think it can definitely do a whole lot. Unfortunately, Infernape is outsped by some of the faster mons on my opponent's team, but it does put in a lot of work, and not too many mons on my opponent's team can switch into either Close Combat or Toxic, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and jump into the fourth member of my team, and that is going to be Celesteela Jr., the Skarmory, making its return. carrying a red card this time, almost a max defense set with just a little bit of speed in case something wants to try to speed creep the Skarmory. Now I'm carrying this red card just as a emergency backup check because with red card and sturdy, basically no setup sweeper can run through my team if I manage to keep my sturdy intact. I don't anticipate needing that, and red card can also just be generally useful for throwing your opponent off because it gives you a free whirlwind essentially without having to attack, so you can do something like set up stealth rocks or defog or roost, throw off a toxic, any of those, and your opponent is just forced out if they touch you. So I really like red card against this guy's team in particular because of his setup sweepers and also just because he doesn't appreciate being shifted around, especially with rocks up. So that's going to be my Skarmory set. Moving on, we have our 5th Mon making its debut finally in week 6. We have, of course, the Zygarde carrying a Lumberry this week. Okay, so this Zygarde I can definitely see putting in a lot of work versus my opponent's team. Rocking an Adamant Nature with 252 attack, I put some defense in here so that it could take stuff like an Ice Shard from Sneasel somewhat better, and also it can just take general attacks from stuff like the Choice Scarf Staraptor or Choice Scarf Mienshao if it needs to. Rocking here just Dragon Dance, Extreme Speed, Outrage, and Toxic. One other really cool thing about my opponent's team for me is that he doesn't have any Steel types or any Fairy types. In short, he doesn't have any Dragon Resists. So late game, if I can manage to weaken some of his physical walls in the Slowbro and the Donphan, I can just click Dragon Dance once and start clicking Outrage. The Lumberry, of course, will allow me to click Outrage at least 4 times before I get confused, barring my opponent activating the Lumberry earlier. So I definitely could see this mod putting in a whole lot of work, especially late game, either with the Extreme Speed or the Outrage. Finally, the last mod that I'm bringing to this team, we're bringing double Dragon Dancers, so we are also bringing Dragon the Gyarados Mega, carrying that set that it loves to carry, a max attack, Adamant Nature, with Dragon Dance, Outrage, Waterfall, and Crunch. Now, what this speed allows it to do is it allows it to outspeed a max speed Choice Scarf Staraptor or Choice Scarf Mienshao after 2 Dragon Dances. That's a situation I could potentially see myself getting into. So this is a situation I could see if I get this thing in versus, say, something like a Sneasel, a Donphan, even a Como-O, and I can just Dragon Dance up once. If I manage to get it to Dragon Dance up twice, then it will outspeed the Mienshao and the Staraptor, even if they're max speed Choice Scarf. Other than that, it's just picking which 3 coverage moves I think fit the team best. Now, I decided to go with Outrage, Waterfall, and Crunch for this week. Went with Outrage because he doesn't have any Fairy types or Steel types, as I mentioned before. So it does hit really, really hard, even though it's not stab. It hits just as hard as Waterfall and Crunch because of the increase in base power. And it allows me to knock out the Como-O at +1, which is just amazing. And of course the other moves are just general coverage. Of course, something to watch out for is to make sure I don't Waterfall the Heliolisk. That thing might potentially be rocking Dry Skin. But other than that, I definitely think this Mon could put in the work. Barring a Flame Body from Volcarona, because that would be kind of annoying if I get a Gyarados sweep stopped short by that. But the cool thing about having 2 Dragon Dancers is that my opponent's physical walls, maybe I can wear down all of them with one of them early in the game, and then I can use the other one to clean in the late game. So a little bit of redundancy there on the physical side that I could see definitely helping me out here, because his main physical walls can definitely be worn out pretty easily. So that's going to be the team. I do have 3 Mons with Toxic, so hopefully we'll be able to badly poison a bunch of Mons on my opponent's team and bounce back from the very close but very good game we had last week, which unfortunately brought the Pittsburgh Celesteelas our first loss. But in any case, looking forward to this game, and I'll be right back letting you guys know how it went. And we are back with the matchup. My opponent decided to bring a team of Taurus, Mienshao, Volcarona, Staraptor, Meloetta, and the Donphan. So I'm just going to go ahead and lead out with my Skarmory. I don't see much of a reason not to. Just get up some rocks. In the case that he let off with his Volcarona, I would hard switch into my Goodra. So I wasn't terribly worried about that. Now the Mienshao turn 1 is just going to go for the U-turn, but because of the red card, it doesn't actually have the choice of who to switch into. So it ends up going out into the Staraptor, which of course my Skarmory also has a very good matchup against. So in the next turn, I can just get off a Toxic on whatever he wants to bring in next. And that's exactly what happens. He U-turns out into his Donphan, and I managed to connect a Toxic onto this thing, which is huge. That Toxic is going to be huge for wearing this thing down, because other than the Toxic, I really only have Gyarados to hit this thing, and I don't want to bring in Gyarados prematurely. So I, at this point, don't really see a reason to switch out my Skarmory. I don't think Donphan can do much to Skarmory, so I'm just going to sit in here and sort of scout out what he's going to do. I doubt that he's going to Earthquake turn 1, so I just go for the Roost, bring myself back to full as he gets up his rocks. Go ahead and click Defog here, and just kind of stalling out his poison a bit as he switches into the Mienshao. Of course, I'm really well matched up against the Mienshao because I'm max defense, so I just get my rocks back up. Now at this point, he switches into Volcarona, so I make the switch out into my slime pile, the Goodra. That's just my safest switch. Even if you Quiver Danced at that point, I'm packing the Toxic, I'm packing a whole lot of Spadef. I'd be able to take this thing on 1v1 between that and my Hidden Power Rock. So this turn I am just going to go ahead and throw off a Toxic on whatever he wants to get Toxic, and the plan is just coming to fruition here because so many of his Mons now are just being worn down by this Toxic. I choose here to sack my Infernape, so let me explain this play. My Infernape doesn't really have a very good matchup against this team. Yes, it can knock out the Volcarona with Stone Edge, and yes, it can knock out, of course, the Tauros with Close Combat, but the Tauros outspeeds, the Staraptor is more than likely Choice Scarfed, and the Volcarona, well, I have Rocks up, so I don't really think that thing's going to be an issue in the future. That's why I decided to go ahead and sack this Infernape. Also to scout out the Meloetta set some. If it was something like a Calm Mind set, then I'd be able to threaten it with my physical move pool. Something like a Displate Boosted Close Combat would do a ton to this thing, so that's why I went and sacked my Infernape at this point in time. Alright, so after I sack my Infernape, I can go ahead and go into my Tapu Koko here, and I'm just going to throw off a U-turn as he stays in. I didn't really expect him to stay in here, because even though he can take my special attacks really well, the fact that I went into Tapu Koko on a Meloetta, I was trying to, I guess, bluff a little bit that I was a physical set, but he does just stay in, and so I feel like he's probably going to fire off another Psyshock. I just go into my Skarmory. This thing can take pretty much any attack as he goes for the Psyshock, and gets worn down some more by the Toxic. Now at this point he goes for the Focus Blast and misses. The reason I stay in here is because even if the Focus Blast had hit, it doesn't really do that much to Skarmory. Even a Thunderbolt doesn't kill Skarmory from this range. A Focus Blast only does a little over 50% to my spread. So I didn't feel too bad about staying in here and just roosting. I would have gotten near back to full even if that had hit it, so it wasn't a terribly bad thing for my opponent. Although it was definitely unfortunate that my Skarmory is back at full. So he goes back into his Mienshao, and I know I can beat this thing 1v1 even if it's Reckless High Jump Kick. It's not going to 2-hit KO a near max defense Skarmory. So I do just go for the Toxic and another Roost to get myself back to full as he goes into his Donphan. Another Mon which can't really touch me. So I don't know here whether he's going to try to Rapid Spin his rocks away or set up his own rocks. In any case, I just decided to go into my Gyarados because I doubt he's going to make a Stone Edge play on my Skarmory. And so at this point, I'm not sure, I have a relatively free Dragon Dance here, and so I go for it. And as I go for my Dragon Dance, he switches into his Volcarona. And the way he switched into that Volcarona let me know that his win condition here is getting a Flame Body Burn on my Gyarados. Now see, my Gyarados naturally, just Mega Gyarados is very naturally especially bulky, so even if this Volcarona is offensive, which based on the leftovers it's probably not, but even if it is very offensive, the Bug Buzz is not going to one-shot my Mega Gyarados. So I was considering having a second Dragon Dance here, but I didn't want to risk anything. I didn't want to risk him having a move that could burn me, like a Fire Blast or what have you, or even just a random Flamethrower burn. And I didn't also want to risk a Bug Buzz crit. So even though after 2 Dragon Dances I would be able to outspeed all of his Scarfers and potentially win the game right there, I decided it's probably safer just to go ahead and eliminate the Mon in front of me with a Waterfall. And as it turns out, he does get the Flame Body burn, so it wouldn't have really mattered if I had Dragon Danced again and tried to get to +2 and outspeed him, because if I had gotten burnt anyways, well, I'm not going to be able to sweep if I'm burnt. I'm not going to be able to do much to the Donphan, to be honest. So of course at +1 I am going to be outsped by his Scarfers. I don't know whether both his Mienshao and his Staraptor are scarfed, but I have a feeling that at least one of them scarfed. So I expect one of them to come in and knock me out with a fighting move, as he chooses to bring his Mienshao out, and that takes me out with a high jump kick. I don't really have any switch-ins to that, so I let my Gyarados go down. It's done its work, and I bring out my Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko, of course, here, being choice scarfed, can just knock this thing out with Dazzling Gleam, and I'm more or less free to just click Dazzling Gleam here, because the only thing on his team that really wants to take a Dazzling Gleam is going to be that Donphan if it's really specially defensive, and in that case I have a really good switch into Donphan in my Skarmory. So I do just go for the Dazzling Gleam here as he sacks his Mienshao, which is probably the right call, and he goes out into his Tauros. So at this point he has his Tauros in against my Tapu Koko. I'm expecting something like an Earthquake, but I calced and I figured out that even if he's running a Sheer Force Fire Blast with some Spatak investment, my Skarmory can, at this range, take 2 Fire Blasts from this Tauros. So that's why I felt safe switching in my Tauros here. My Skarmory here on this Tauros, because even if he had gone for the Fire Blast there, I would have been able to live the second one and roost back up and stall him out a bit. So don't feel so bad about that. I do just hard switch into Zygarde here because I don't think he's going to make like a Rock Climb play or a play of some move that could hit me hard. I expect that he's probably going to try to Fire Blast again, or I'm not entirely sure what he's going to do. Maybe he's going to double out to one of his other Mons. In any case, this Zygarde really matches up well against the remaining Mons on his team. If I can manage to set up, then I'll be in some good shape. So he does actually just go for the Rock Slide this turn, which is great for me because I could take that really well. Thankfully, he doesn't confuse me or anything with the Rock Climb, so I managed to get this Dragon Dance off, and I can just outspeed and knock him out with the Outrage. So now at this point, I do basically just win the game, unless his Donphan is packing the Ice Shard. But he does go out into his Donphan, so that lets me know that it probably is packing the Ice Shard, which it is, and it finishes me off. But thankfully at this point, since his Tauros is gone, I can just now win with my Skarmory because neither of his remaining Mons can touch Skarmory. So at this point, the game is just basically me avoiding roosting, because if I can roost, he might be able to Earthquake crit me and knock me out and do some shenanigans like that. So as long as I avoid roosting, Donphan really can't touch me. It had already revealed its moveset at that point. So at this point I can spam Roost against the Staraptor safely, because I'm slower than Staraptor, obviously. But against the Donphan, my gameplay is just to spam other moves, basically any other move. So I do just spam Roost against the Staraptor. Not much you can do at this point to take me out. So that is going to be a good game, as my Staraptor manages to pick up these last few kills with its previous Toxics. So yeah, at this point I just spam Toxic. It goes for a Rapid Spin, removing my rocks, and at this point I just gotta keep spamming Toxic, not Roost, and give him the opportunity to Earthquake me. And that is going to be a good game. So a very good game to my opponent. I definitely think that the lack of status absorbers on his team really helped me out in this matchup, and also the lack of Dragon Resists just sort of made the combination of all the Toxic pressure and then my offensive Dragon Dancing threats. A little overwhelming from an opponent to handle this match. The Donphan is going to fall, and so that is going to take your Pittsburgh Celesteelas to a 5-1, currently rocking a plus 18 differential as of this 3-0. So very satisfied with how this week's game went. Looking forward to the rest of the tournament, to be honest. We are just over the halfway point, as there are going to be 11 rounds before playoffs in this league. So that's pretty fun. And yeah, that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed the game, and I look forward to seeing you in the next match, and also with the draft analysis of the RBA, which will be on this channel soon. So that's all for now.